Size matters.
Yep, size does matter.
It's a customer service business.
Magic, you can buy, I don't know, a Mox Diamond for $250, go play it, and then resell it $200.
Like any money that's not to pay bills in the next 2 weeks, you can just spend it on Magic cards. So, we've got bands to spend.
You heard it here first. Moose Loot out here. We are joined by none other than Chuck from Mage's Sanctum. We're here at MagicFest Austin. And what's going on, Chuck?
Oh, nothing, just working, having fun.
Just working, having fun, love it. What is the biggest hidden cost for vendors that like the regular Joe Schmo doesn't know about when they look at an LGS?
The thing you kind of want to remember, and I didn't know this at first, in addition to selling what you bring, which is going to happen very fast, you want to bring money so that you can replenish your inventory on the spot. So don't show up to one of these things already depleted. Bring money to buy too. So
Gotcha, for sure. Yeah, just so you don't run out of stock, and then you look like the loser that doesn't have anything.
We almost always sell out of everything we brought on the first day. And then everything you see for the second 2 days is stuff we got here.
What we do at GPs, which is not to say this is what every vendor does. I will, when there's any downtime at the booth, I'll process cards. So we'll get new things out throughout the course of the weekend. This is fun for players who may have already checked to see, like, hey, is this card here? Ooh, there's more stuff. But generally speaking, you have a certain amount of display space and you want to fill it up. Right. So we come here with enough stuff to fill our display space, and sure, we'll patch holes and stuff. But in reality, like, nobody's ever bought us out of cards.
Right, sure. Yeah,
so like we can't really run low on inventory, and if we did, we've got buyers busy all weekend buying stuff, so we can just turn more of that around if that really becomes an issue.
As a vendor or a card seller, is there a hidden cost to selling, buying, trading cards that the average Joe Schmo doesn't know about?
Yeah, your time.
Just time and effort, energy?
Well, so to become an expert in anything, it takes 13 years awake, or 12 to 13 years awake of your time. Magic's only been around 30 years, so there's not a lot of experts in the world. To tell if the card is real, to gauge what its condition is, to make an actual cash offer like a pawn shop, right? So you as a player can walk in here, hand me a pile of cards, and I can give you cash. Right. And you can leave. There's not a lot of hobbies that are like that.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of costs. So back when I was playing, I was always like, man, vendors get such great margins. They're like selling things for double what they're paying, and it's like crazy. All last year and most of 2018, we were doing island booths, right, which are the 4 booths, freestanding in the middle of the room. We would have 6 to 7 staff members. We would pay Channel Fireball $10,000 per island. And the total overhead that we would be into a booth would be about $20,000 to $21,000 for a normal flying show. A little less for driving, a little more if it's on the West Coast or something.
So, the biggest cost that, people obviously know about is the inventory. You've got to spend money to have a massive inventory. But there is a lot of hidden cost in getting to these things. You have to pay the booth costs, which people know about. But then you have to pay travel costs. You have to move your product. Right. Moving product is not cheap because it's hard to ship that stuff. And so they'll just bring their singles, which you can just throw in a suitcase in a nice protector box.
The actual booth fee, but also getting all the people to all the right places, but also prepping all the cases, but also just having all the, everything set up. And then you have to pay all the people that work your booth, and you have to feed all the people that work your booth. There's a huge cost to buying and selling at a GP level.
Usually you'll pay for travel time for your employees. You'll pay them to help you set up the couple days beforehand. Thursday, I was at the shop for 12 hours just getting everything ready.
That's crazy.
That's a long day to do that.
That's one of the reasons why most of us started out as backpack traders or online collection buyers or whatever, because the overhead's much lower.
Yeah.
So it's easy to work on a small scale doing that, but you can't really scale up without incurring significant overhead.
It seems like it, yeah. 20,000 for a couple booths. Yeah, it really
20,000 per booth.
Per booth?
Per booth.
Good
yeah,
God,
total
man.
overhead.
Good
so,
God. What's the largest collection you've ever requisitioned? And are there any sort of hidden aspects to getting a collection that large, or trading for it or buying Power 9, these expensive pieces?
The largest I've probably hit was probably yesterday. It was probably at 24, 26K. There's a lot of fluctuation in that price, mainly because the amount of cards that you get is so extreme. This was probably 3,000 cards. We build in, or at least I do, I build in price points to negotiate a lot of times on cards. I'll say I want to get this, but like I have a negotiation point of how far I'm willing to go down. And so you build that in, and so that leads to the fluctuations on the actual value of it. The value is technically only worth what you get paid for it. Like at the end of the day, you can go look at anything online and be like, well, this is what it's worth, but if that's not what you get, it ain't worth that. Like it took 4 or 5 hours to go through all those cards. It takes time to grade them. You got to check authenticity. People always expect to check the high-end cards, but for me, the cards that I want to check are going to be Innistrad, the sets right before the hollows got put on the bottom. And to be honest, I even check the cards with the hollows because it's like when you counterfeit money, you're not going to counterfeit 50s and 100s as much. You're going to counterfeit the 20s, 10s, and 5s.
They're less likely to be checked.
Right, because they're less likely to check. They're easier to pass off.
You want to make sure it's real.
Right.
But also there's stuff like rebacks that are real Magic cards that are glued together, but they're not the same Magic card. So you have to be aware of that. Never buy anything if you don't have somebody lined up to sell it to. I think that's the biggest trap. Like we all want, Moxes and Lotuses, but when you're done with it, where do you take it to sell it?
Right.
So I wouldn't get into any card unless you were going to definitely play it, because your time is a factor. Like a video game, you spend $60 on a video game, you play it for, let's say, 2 weeks. I'm being generous. And then you go to resell it, and you're going to get 15 to 18% in cash and 25% in trade for that game, no matter what. Magic, you can buy, I don't know, a Mox Diamond for $250, go play it, and then resell it $200. You know what I'm saying? And so I wouldn't get into any cards in any capacity unless you were going to play it, because your time is worth it. If you're going to play more than a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, or if you had somebody who wanted to buy it.
Size matters.
Yep, size does matter. I bought a collection a year ago of Alpha Beta Unlimited cards that was like well into the 6 figures. So So yeah, that's the biggest one ever.
And when you're doing that kind of buy for a store, do you need to sign off with anybody, or is it you just have carte blanche on whatever you're trying to get?
I was hired because they trust my decision making, so they were like, hey, you know what you're doing, do what you do. And so I get to decide what happens.
That's a great place to be at, man.
I would say that the only restraint we have is our current bankroll at the time. So if somebody comes up to us with $1 million collection, no, I can't buy the whole thing at once. Hopefully soon. But right now we're in more of the once we get into the low 6 figures, we cap out. But generally speaking, if you have money and like any money that's not to pay bills in the next 2 weeks, you can just spend it on Magic cards. So we've got, I don't know, bands to spend. So every weekend. So
Moose Loot out. You heard it here first. Moose Loot out here.
My point of view is always taking care of the person that I'm buying and selling from. And so I want them to be happy at the end of the day. Like, it's a customer service business. My name is on the line. I want them to be happy and recommend me to other people.